Okay. So we're just starting our live event, and please feel free to introduce yourself over the chat. We're going to be spending the next 45 minutes or so chatting about our online experience working with Laura Mercier and BareMinerals. So we're just going to let a little bit of time pass, but please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat and we'll get started. Let a few more people join. Nice. Also, please feel free to add in emojis during the session whenever we're walking through some conversation topics. If it kind of speaks to you, there's quite a few different emojis you can use, and we're happy to kind of feel a little bit more engaged. Nice, thanks everyone. What I was thinking we could do at the start is just do a little bit of a walkthrough for Laura Mercier and BareMinerals, and just kind of like have a really high level familiarization of the two sites. So I'm just gonna kind of share my screen and walk you through a few of the aspects of this site. So with Laura Mercier and BareMinerals, to kind of make sure that everyone is filled in on the background, Orveon Group purchased these amongst other brands from Shiseido and wanted to kind of revitalize what that online experience looked like. So they reached out to a few partners and really wanted to encourage how to make a brand feel like a legacy brand, feel new again, feel fresh, feel like it was born online and didn't have as much restraint as it might have in the past. So we worked together to start to map out what that felt like. So we really wanted to make sure that, hover states were considered. We really wanted to make sure virtual try-on was a kind of first-party citizen. And we wanted to make sure that anyone that was buying from these sites really felt like it had a personalized experience. And we're going to go through some of this in the webinar later today. So yeah, just really doing a focus on BareMinerals and Laura Mercier and some of the approaches that we took while building out this site and working with Klevu. So I think without further ado, kind of like, let's jump into this right now. So over the next 30 minutes, we're going to do that deep dive into some of the world's most recognized beauty brands, Laura Mercier and BareMinerals. I'm the commercial director at Half Helix. We work with brands that really want to make sure that their global presence is really protected. But we also want to come to the table with recommendations on how we can elevate that experience or try new things and encourage some experimentation. The online world feels like it's always being led by the beauty industry. I think the beauty industry commonly always adopts the new generation, the new trends, the new technology. So we're really excited to be here with Carney. So I want to start with a few introductions. So let's do a roundtable, starting with you, Carney, and maybe fill us in on a little bit of your experience working with beauty brands and e-commerce, and we'll move around the room.
Sounds good. Hi, everyone. My name is Carney Nir. I'm the VP of eCommerce at Orveon, which, as Courtney mentioned, is a new company. We're 1.5 years old, and we are a collective of beauty brands that includes Laura Mercier, BareMinerals, and Buxom Cosmetics. My background has always been in digital and e-commerce. I actually started my career in the music industry, which was a lot of fun. But for the last very long period, I've been in the beauty industry. I started my own pure player many years ago back in Australia. Most recently, I was at the Estee Lauder companies. And then for the last 8 months, I've been at Orveon leading their global e-commerce program.
Nice. And on to you, Rachel.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rachel Tonner. I am VP of Marketing at Klevu. And I think it's interesting that Carney said she used to be in the music industry. I, too, used to be an opera singer. So I think these, e-commerce attracts a wide variety of people. But I've been in the e-commerce industry for about 15 years, and my career has spanned from like PR through to UX, actually, where I've worked on websites such as Harvey Nichols, Poundland, Benson's for Beds and Clothing. And really the reason why I work at Klevu now and I love Klevu is because a lot of the UX niggles that I used to pick up when I was doing projects are fixed quite easily and naturally by the services that the Klevu search and merchandising and product recommendations provides. So I love that we can offer that really easily to amazing SIs like you guys, Half Helix, and then retailers like you to be able to have a good experience for product discovery, because it's really quite hard to get right.
Yeah. And Alex, you're not musical at all with those guitars in your background. I feel like
I'm actually a very famous musician first, and then I'm a technical lead at Half Helix second. That's a lie. I can barely play them, but yeah, I've been working in building and designing websites for over a decade now, with a focus on e-commerce sites for the last 3 to 4 years. I kind of have done a wide range of different types of brands, from beauty brands to fashion brands to, products where we're selling a single product on a store, all the way to, big stores where we're selling thousands. And so I think one of the awesome things of working with brands like Laura Mercier and BareMinerals is that there's so much visibility on those stores that, you feel like a little celebrity when you launch a site like that, and you show all your friends and family, and they're already buying off the previous versions of the site, and then they get to come and buy from the one that you built. So it's always a good time.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm the last one, and I definitely do not have any musical industry, so we can just skip that part. I'm a very tone deaf person. But the one thing I'm not, and I'm really excited, Carney, for you to be on the call, is because you seem to have had like a pretty extensive background in the beauty industry, and joining Orveon, I would assume, would have been a really exciting opportunity because it was really greenfield. You had to establish very well recognized brands, but you had the opportunity to choose whatever path you wanted with this next step, this next stage for Laura Mercier and BareMinerals. So talk to me about that. Like, how was it your first impressions at Orveon, and what were the biggest kind of challenges or opportunities that your team were really focused on?
Yeah, for sure. So you're right. When I joined Orveon, it was less than a year old, but we're operating with these very big established brands. So we're kind of, flying and building the plane at the same time. So, what really attracted to me at Orveon and coming from a big beauty company previously, Estee Lauder, I understand how difficult it is to innovate with legacy systems. And so what really attracted me was the ability for us to really deliver speed to market, expand globally very quickly, and build the right infrastructure that would allow support us in our acceleration plans. So the very exciting thing is, like, we are building the infrastructure right now, or in the process of it. And so we've been very lucky to have partners like Half Helix, like Klevu, that have supported us in that process. So our challenge was a couple of things. Number one, build the infrastructure and decide what the right approach was. Two, as you mentioned, the sites were missing a number of what we would consider core basics. So we really had to get the sites up to par very quickly. And then 3, we're trying to leapfrog, how do we accelerate the businesses from a digital perspective? And we're trying to expand globally very quickly at the same time. So there is a lot to do. And that's why we really had to be very choiceful about the tech stack that we picked that would allow us, would support us in this process.
That seems like there's just so many things to consider. So I guess this could be kind of even a roundtable for everyone, because everyone has had a hand in transitioning brands from one platform to another or changing technology. And I guess, what is the one thing that you feel like is most important when making a transition for an established brand?
Yeah, I think for us, the data migration was so critical. Our Chief Digital Officer, Salima, is super focused on data and ensuring that we are building the systems in the first place to really connect all of the disparate data points. I think that has been, it's a challenge for any business, but for us to be able to to actually use the data to collect it and then actually be able to action it is somewhat the challenge. So for us, the data migration was critical, because not only does it ensure that the user has a consistent experience with the brand, but it also allows us to build out a lot of the personalization capabilities that are really a priority for us as we look at our roadmap.
That's really exciting. Alex, Rachel, do you have anything else that you feel like as a brand is transitioning, or do you echo the really giant focus on migration and making sure data is set up really solidly so that you can build your brand on top of it?
You want to go, Rachel?
Sure. I'll just quickly say that, I think a lot of times brands get hung up on this long list of requirements. And a lot of times those requirements are based in best practice, based in people's opinions and experiences. But I think, just kind of a word to the wise, we're in this very, very fast transition right now in e-commerce to new innovation, AI, I think just look a little bit forward and make sure that you're not just doing what everybody else has done, and look towards what will be in the future. And I think data has a big part to play in that. So Carney, you've set your team up for success. But yeah, that's what I would say. I'm seeing some RFPs come through now, and I'm kind of like, in 18 months when this is built, is it going to be at what you actually need?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for us, I think the not just from a, data usability perspective, I think also when you go through a bit of a transition period like this, where you're migrating over to a complete new set of technology, it's a really great opportunity to take a step back, have a look at your infrastructure and your architecture, and kind of do like a little bit of a reset, a bit of a cleanup, and kind of fix a lot of the issues that you've been facing. And so it's I think a really important part of that process is to have an aerial view and focus on building a really, really good platform for the next sort of 3 years, 5 years, however it is. So for us, when we're working on a project where there are large brands like Laura Mercier and BareMinerals, we want to make sure that we're understanding everything about their business and how their users use their stores. And we also, so we do a bit of a deep dive. We'll go into kind of a, writing of high level requirements. And this is kind of the first step that we'll take. And this isn't just looking at how a user uses each piece of functionality on the store, but it's also how the admins are going to use every piece of functionality on the store, because the Orveon team is the most important part of how you can empower and use that site confidently in the future. And so for us, we want to make sure that we get those parts right. And so that's why we go through a more focused deep dive of writing functional specs before we'll even get to a point of writing a single line of code.
So let's talk about that a little bit, Alex. So whenever we're going through and working with a brand, is it just for their tech stack that we look at kind of how does the user and admin need to operate, and how does that customer, what's the ideal customer experience? Is that just for tech stack, or is it for all feature and functionality that we build out?
So I think yeah, definitely for architecture, it's very important, and also from sort of, allowing an opportunity for the teams to have their piece on how they, want to be able to customize and use the site. But I think also from like a sort of technical processes point of view as well, we need to make sure that we're setting them up for success. So we want to go through, understand how they're going to use the site on a monthly basis, how their admins want to, introduce new features, what the sort of the longer term roadmap and short term roadmap is. And that was kind of the process that we went through with Orveon right in the beginning. And the outcome of that is not just sort of like, figuring out the architecture of the site and how we're going to build this, but it's also, how are we going to build deployment tools so that we can, send our code to different regional expansion stores, or how are we going to, build a, nice continuous integration process so that we can always introduce new features, or allow for rapid rollout of new regional stores when they want to experiment in new markets. And so it's important that we get that process as well as the architecture correct from the beginning, because it's a high visibility website. There's a lot of traffic. We don't want to be in a situation where we haven't thought about all of those sort of little bits in the beginning, and they'll always, the processes and the architecture will always evolve as well as the business changes. And so it's kind of an exciting technical problems to solve that are always great for us as an agency.
Yeah, I think that brings up a really interesting point. One of the common things that the founder of Half Helix, Peter, always says is that we don't want to paint you into a proverbial back corner technology-wise. We always want to make sure that if we're pairing you or recommending or evaluating different technology, we want to not only know what that technology roadmap looks like, but also make sure that there's a few outs if the technology doesn't live up to expectation, and we can reprioritize or reevaluate what is the next option. And I think that that's really important. Technology is changing constantly. The amount of updates from platform alone is really, really shocking. It feels like every week there's like a laundry list of all these new features and functionality. So that's just coming from platform. And then also starting to consider what other technologies are doing, and then what are the disruptors within the market. We have our partnerships team has definitely a full-time job evaluating different technology and really trying to figure out what are the pros, cons, differences between all of these. I guess that kind of brings me to Carney, like Orveon chose to move away from Salesforce Commerce Cloud to Shopify. Were there any kind of like standout reasons for the team to have made that decision? Or was there anything that you felt like you were just really excited about that Shopify seemed to be moving towards?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously Salesforce is a powerful platform as well. But for us, when we consider our very aggressive global expansion plans, it really made Shopify somewhat of a no-brainer, because it allowed us to launch, I think we've launched 4 global sites and we have 8 more just in this year alone. So it really allowed us that very quick speed to market. Also, as we think about like what each region needs to succeed, what we do like is the app integrations within Shopify as well, because it does allow each region a level of control. What the right subscription vendor for the US may not work for Japan or Hong Kong. So we really want to give the regions the flexibility to also use the vendors that work in their local markets, but also obviously ensure that everywhere that our brands are represented, that there is a very consistent brand look and feel, so that the experience that I have of BareMinerals in Japan is the same experience that I have in the US or Canada.
It probably will allow you to have your team all speaking the same kind of technology language, and making sure that if there are some areas of opportunity to experiment, you can really do that in one region or within one specific thing. And be able to decide if you want to roll it out and experiment it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other great thing is like now, when we release an enhancement in, our normal sprint cycle, it's available to all of our regions at the same time. Typically that is not the approach that, at least I've had in my career in previous platforms that I've worked on. So it really, it was just a no-brainer when we thought about what we needed to achieve globally.
Nice. And Alex, in terms of kind of Shopify 2.0 and kind of some of the benefits that you felt like really supported, because there was still, I think at the start of the evaluation, there still was kind of a question of, was Shopify the best platform for the brand? And obviously from Carney, it sounds like it was a really great decision to land on. But were there any other considerations that Half Helix brought to kind of reinforce why Shopify would have been a good choice for these two brands?
Yeah, I mean, in for all the challenges that I think Carney mentioned facing off sort of SFCC, I think we could solve them perfectly with what we can get with a very typical Shopify 2.0 theme, and it was sort of the reason why we went down that approach. We wanted to create something that was really modular, really customizable, but also it kind of had these the ability for us to deploy from a single code base. So one code base per brand. And so it was really important that we got that system and that framework right, because it means, that we can essentially, continuously improve it, but we can also build a very modular system. So for example, integrations can be toggled on and off. Like you've mentioned, Japan store there, for example, there's certain integrations that the Japanese team might not need to use that we do need to use in the US. So we wanted to make sure that we had a framework where we could, build new features, build integrations off that. And we would always be able to kind of expand and scale. And that was kind of the outcome that we came to. It was a sort of single code base for Laura Mercier, single code base for BareMinerals. And so when we are, rolling out new features, as Carly mentioned, in every sprint cycle, those features are, they become available for all of their regional teams. And it also gives the regional teams the power to kind of also control and work their own content, work their own merchandising needs. It kind of empowers them to, have their own strategy, but have this really great framework that has like, a nice modular content library. So a bunch of different global content modules that can be customized, and they will all match the same look and feel, but the content can be completely different. And the templates can be completely different. And I think that was also really important because, we're not going to be able to, have one content strategy in the US and that's going to work in France or in England. And so that was why I think it was important for us to pick this approach. So we took, special attention to that.
Yeah, I'm just kind of sharing my screen just because, in the past, like I worked at Shopify for a few years when everything was dictated by templates. There was a template for the homepage. There was a template for the PDP. There was a template for the collection page. And there was not an opportunity to share those sections. And this is something that like Shopify had worked on tremendously. So each of these sections that have, a lead to a collection page or a product page, a hero image with different swatches, these can be this imagery and the copy and even the swatches can be swapped in for different products and reused multiple times around the site. And this is something that, in the past was always only available for headless, and has recently been rolled out for Shopify 2.0, which I think a lot of brands have just been kind of relieved at that ability to experiment and create new sections and marketing opportunities where they had always had to rely on a developer to build it out and then launch it, and it would just be taking a really long time. So speed to market as well, I feel like maybe a good one.
Yeah, super important. Yeah.
If I can just come in there as well, because I think like in terms of another thing I really think is cool, especially if you're launching in lots of new markets, Carney, is the fact that like search and merchandising within search and personalization can actually just be automatically localized without much work from your team. And I think that's really cool that these days, like AI can help teams do that. And it makes the customer experience just so much better as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that we mentioned, and we've mentioned a few times, is personalization. So why is personalization so important for brands in general? And then especially, why was it a focus for Laura Mercier and BareMinerals? And I feel like we probably all could, we could all probably weigh in on this. So yeah, feel free to start it off, Carney.
Yeah, so I think for us, a couple of reasons. Number one, a huge proportion of our business is done in complexion. It is really hard to sell foundation online to a new customer. You know, we need to understand their skin tone. You know, when we have products which have 40 plus shades, how do you pick the right one? How, you know, do you have dry skin? Do you have oily skin? And, you know, if you buy the wrong product for your skin type, you could have a bad experience that obviously impacts our ratings and reviews. That customer may not come back. So it's really critical for us. We really see our brand.com obviously as our digital flagship. So it is critical that it's not just a replenishment channel. It has to do the job of helping a first-time buyer convert on complexion. So for us, it's really important to understand these inputs that the customer is giving us about what they're looking for, the finish that they're looking for, their skin type, so that we can serve the appropriate product for them that they're going to like. The second thing is that beauty is so emotional. So, you know, I might go on and buy a new lipstick because I'm having a bad day. Or you might buy, something else because you're feeling a certain way. So there are all of these signals that the consumer is giving us that allows us to, through personalization, through AI, we're able to really understand or try to understand the intent in a better way and to try and serve the right product. So it might be based on, what you've previously browsed. It might be based on, what other, similar consumers are searching for or frequently bought together. So to really help us to guide the customer into what, might be the product that they're looking for.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I think for us, like that, so from a technology perspective, there's actually, there's some really interesting ways that we can sort of assist with those personalization goals that Carney's mentioned there. And I think we actually got some really some opportunity to build some really cool technology on the Laura Mercier and BareMinerals site. So, we got to work with great partners like Klevu and like Nosto. And so we wanted to, one thing that was really important was that we went through this really amazing UI and UX process where we designed these really beautiful websites. And so I think matching the UI features to the content that's being served from these personalization platforms was really important. That we wanted to, use all of this great kind of research that we got through the design of the website and match those elements to what we would be able to build within the theme. And so one cool feature that we got to build was a really flexible JavaScript or liquid version of the product card, as an example. And the cool thing about this is that, we get served data either from, the Shopify store natively, or we get served data from Nosto or from Klevu through their APIs. But we're matching the exact elements that we would be matching natively. I can share my screen to quickly show.
So are you saying that like you're able to, even if it's a personalization tool that's being enacted, it still looks like an authentic part of the thought through design that was already created?
Exactly. Yeah. We wanted to ensure that basically a user wouldn't be thinking that these elements are popping in later. They're not an ad or something that's coming in from a third party platform. We wanted to match the exact style of the other parts of the store. And with Klevu and Nosto, we were able to do that using their awesome APIs. So as you can see in this GIF, we can put in a placement ID, and then on the front end, we're going to be served our exact product cards using our code. And that means that we can match, the quick shop functionality. We can match the shade swatch kind of features and elements, the reviews, the ratings, things like that we have on our product card that are really important. And so, we were really lucky to be able to work with such great partners to do that.
And so the products that are served up here, are they manually added or are they chosen by the personalization algorithm?
So they can be both. Essentially, you can either create your own collection of products manually, or you can serve based on a certain personalization rules or criteria that you would set. And I'm sure Rachel would have a lot more to say on kind of how you like to do that with Klevu.
Sure. Yeah. I'll share my screen for a second, actually, because if that's okay.
Yeah,
sure.
Let me just see if I can.
We're all doing it. We're all doing the screen share.
Share screen window. Okay. So a really important part of like search personalization, let me just make this a little bigger, is like, especially for beauty brands, because people who go onto a beauty site, they can search for lots of different types, in lots of different types of ways. They can search for a feature, they can search for a product name, they can actually do what's called a symptom search, which is really quite typical. So if we look here and we're, say, searching for powder for oily skin, and here you can see that there are results here. Now, it's not saying exactly why these are results for oily skin, but because it's an AI tool, it's recognizing the subject of the search and stuff. And this search, after a user clicks on a few things, it winds up being personalized to what they're searching for. On the BareMinerals site as well. It's just such a beautiful search. You guys did such a great job designing this because it's nice. It clicks in, starts with popular searches, and then we say powder for oily skin, and it comes up immediately. It's really fast. It's really nice. Yeah, it's really, really lovely. So in terms of like why that's important for beauty, we did some research at Klevu about search conversion rates for different industries. And beauty actually has the second highest of all of the industries. The first highest is pet retailing. Because I think, when you have a pet, you kind of know what they want and you search exactly for that thing and it converts really highly. But for beauty, search conversion rate is around 10%. So it's a huge amount of money if you do it right. But we also did some research that conversion rate actually goes up 12 whole percentage points when there's 5 words in the query. But consumers sometimes have to work too hard to get there. And 56% of retail websites actually can't process natural language. So then they just kind of give up. And I think they give up after 3 tries. That's typical. So it's really great what you guys have built on Laura Mercier and BareMinerals, because it is a really important part of the journey. And it gives a really good first impression when it works really well. And that's a huge part of, brand and brand affinity. So yeah, search is really important. And then obviously using the search data to populate other parts of the site is also really important because it's high intent. But I'll stop talking about it. I mean, Carney, how do you kind of use search data in your day-to-day?
Yeah, I mean, our team really looks at this every day. I mean, I think one of the beauties of using Klevu is obviously that, there is automation there. It's not such a heavy lift on our team, but we use it more on really trying to understand our consumers and what they're looking for. So it informs, for example, our merchandising strategy on site. If we're seeing consistently that someone is looking for a particular product, is it merchandised correctly? Should we make it easier to find? Is there a problem there? Those long tail keywords that you just mentioned, Rachel, the 5 or more term queries, they're so critical as well because, maybe it's actually not a product, but maybe the consumer is actually looking for deeper education. So that informs our content strategy. And obviously content shows up in our search results as well. So, the recommendations I think are helpful to guide people into top categories that we see as, top search terms. But I think the data, while we don't need to adjust, our settings on a daily basis, the data is so helpful in really just understanding how we can better optimize the site experience.
That is so cool. Yeah, I love how you're using search like that, and it isn't just about the user experience. It's a lot to do with that, but it's about what you guys can do from the data. There's a story as well about like how other brands have utilized search for influencer marketing. Like they were looking through their search terms, and they saw Zara McDermott on their, like, as a search term, and they realized, oh, she'd just been on Love Island. They had this table, people were looking for it, and they were quickly able to that day just make that connection, and then they were able to actually start to track the revenue through from her. So it's really interesting. There's so many use cases, and I'm looking forward to seeing more how you guys use it too, and hearing more about that.
Working with brands of all shapes and sizes, I think product discoverability is one of the things that we identify as a missed opportunity that a lot of brands who have historically been operating online and have had the same theme or their same tech stack for a really long time. There are so many brands that still allow for 0 search results. For if you misspell one word, the entire search result comes up as 0. And also brands that don't include content into their search results as well. I think making sure that you're really guiding customers and a variety of different types of customers to be exposed to your product offering and your content is so important. It's one of the things that we probably put at the top of our list whenever we're working with brands at the start, is making sure that you really evaluate not only search, but also really evaluate your content. Where is your content living on your site? Could your content, instead of be long form on a page, could we actually convert some of that content into iconography or into bullet points, into a modular section that can be reused at different points within the shopping experience? And I think that product discoverability is just so vital to brands and like how they compete to get those conversions and get those customers finding products that are really relevant for them.
Yeah. And Alex said before as well, like that beauty brands tend to be quite forward thinking online. And I think one of the things I also love about the Laura Mercier and BareMinerals sites is that the product imagery is so nice, and that there's so many like really close up shots of the product. And Carney, you said that foundation maybe is hard to sell online, but things like lipstick or blusher, like you want to see the texture of it, you want to see it. So that's also part of the product discoverability. It goes hand in hand. You need to have the pretty images and that stuff too, which you guys have done really well.
So we have a question in the chat. Oh, Alex, did you want to build on
I was just going to add that I think also just as aside from search as well, we were really lucky that we got amazing product images and we got those kind of resources. It's something that, you don't always get the opportunity to work with such good product images. So we were very lucky there. But also I think that we, to kind of go back to what Carney was saying about giving the customer confidence in how they're going to purchase, especially products that, are so shade specific or, has a lot of context how the customer wants to use it. We implemented some other features like virtual try on and foundation finder into the product description pages, which also allows a customer to, try some of these shades on before buying. I think features like that can go quite a long way with instilling confidence in the customer making a purchase. And so, yeah, we're really lucky we got a lot of these, these tools and partners that we get to work with and implement on Laura Mercier and BareMinerals, because, yeah, they're really great tools, and we can kind of see the result of of how they're helping convert customers and sales. So it's great.
Absolutely. Virtual try on is so important, especially as we're shopping online. If I was in store trying this on at an actual makeup counter, it would be such a different experience, and really trying to bridge that gap between what does that in-store experience look like, and how do we translate that online? Super powerful. One of the questions that was in the chat is, how powerful is social proofing on beauty websites? And I feel like this is up for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I would say extremely important. We do have social proof throughout our site through a vendor called Nosto that we use. And so you will see, you know, if a product is selling fast, you will see the selling fast sign, you know, trending. We have a lot of trending carousels or trending product cards. So it definitely, you know, and I've tested this consistently, A/B tested this here at Orveon, my previous roles. Social proof always outperforms the variations without the social proof.
Do you have you experimented with user generated content in the past, whether it be at Orveon or other? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have. In my previous role, we actually did a lot of work with UGC on email as well, trying to understand, you know, click rates and the performance of email. And again, it depends on the product, but I think it is so important. If you can see someone that is a normal person that has, you know, skin issues, that looks like me, that has the same shade range, and that product looks good on them, that is obviously going to, you know, help with, you know, me to understand that, yes, this product will work for me. I think ratings and reviews in UGC, we haven't really spoken about, but they are so critical when that consumer's really considering a product. They're kind of basics and right now, but they do such a heavy job of guiding that user from like that consideration to purchase intent.
You know what, when we're talking about ratings and reviews, there's so many different approaches to what you allow people to submit for ratings and reviews. And we can see that on the BareMinerals and Laura Mercier sites, the ratings and reviews have been really thought through and considered in terms of a stylistic approach to how you present ratings and reviews. Why was that such a focus? And are there things that you kind of want to stay away from whenever you're presenting ratings and reviews?
You know, for us, not really. I mean, we really wanted this to feel authentic. So, you know, we really wanted to ensure that, you know, if you had tried our product, that you have the opportunity to place a review. Some people don't like a product, and then we really try to ensure that our beauty chat team is responding to those customers. In a lot of cases, they might have bought the product that is not right for their skin type or is not the right shade. So it's really, how can we help that customer get to the right product? The other piece that we have is ask and answer. So we find that we get a lot of the same sort of questions coming up in reviews. So this is really a permanent place where users can ask a question in our beauty chat team that answer it. It's a second tab in the review section on our PDP, and it just you know, allows people to, you know, to sort of read and find out more details about the product that may be not addressed in our product copy.
And have you used some of the reoccurring questions like as content pieces now on the site?
Yeah, as content pieces, or even to inform some of our content in social, for example. You know, usage sometimes is something that takes us by surprise. You know, people might have the same consistent question around how to apply a specific product that maybe we weren't aware of when we were creating the product pages. So it definitely informs our content strategy and the way that we go to market, and that kind of consistent feedback loop from our consumers.
Rachel, anything to add here?
Yeah, I mean, ratings are incredibly important to show, and not only like the stars, but how many. And you guys do that really well on both of the websites. Also, it's important to show it actually in the quick search and in the product cards, not just on the PDP. And another thing that is relatively new, but Klevu allows for the review, the star and the number to actually influence the algorithm. And you can actually utilize that within merchandising and stuff. So that's really cool. And it just promotes that kind of ecosystem of reviews helping your product discovery throughout the website. And another thing I just wanted to touch on as well is like, yes, you guys use like best of breed platforms for like UGC and recommendations and search. But also, I think it's important to, and this is kind of a public service announcement to anybody listening, you know, lean into your technology and see what else they offer. There's a lot of like email integrations that exist with your existing partners and things. So like really leaning into that, I think, is important, especially during these kind of tough times. Yeah, it was just something that came to mind as you were speaking.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, Carney, like whenever you were touching on, even if a product review isn't positive, like how can that be an opportunity for your team to engage? And, whenever you think about what motivates people to kind of like leave a negative product reviews, a lot of times from my experience at Shopify, it often is that they had an expectation of what the brand was going to fulfill, and that the product might not have lived up to it. But that's such an opportunity for that client support team to be able to say like, hey, how do I fix this? Let's turn this around. And so often those individuals can be huge brand advocates to say, I had an issue and it wasn't that great, but the moment I said something, the brand turned it around.
Yeah. And our beauty chat team are incredible. When we look at our live chat, for example, like they convert at a 20-30% rate. Like they're incredible, very patient people. And, they really do, they're amazing at taking maybe a product experience that wasn't optimal and really turning it into a positive brand experience. So they are amazing.
It's so nice to hear that you, like the Orveon group, has really invested in actual live customer service folks that are going to be responding on the chat, because we're also used to having a chat bot or AI feature, which there is a time and a place for, but to have that personal touch and to know that it's actually a person typing away, trying to kind of solve a problem is really, a thing that I think a lot of brands look past because it's kind of on a budget sheet that they're like, oh, we don't need to hire this person, but it really does make a tremendous impact to an end customer.
For sure.
Nice. I feel like we've kind of gotten to the point where we're almost at the end. So I just wanted to like leave us with maybe like a rapid fire question about, it doesn't have to be a beauty brand, but is there a brand in the market that you feel like is just killing it right now, or doing something that's really exciting? And let's share some positivity in the e-commerce world.
Yeah, I mean, so from a beauty perspective, I love Ilia, I love Red Beauty, and some of the things that I'm seeing out there. From a non-beauty world, I would say Cezanne, a French fashion brand, is spent far too much money on there too frequently. And then I have to say the new Buxom Cosmetics site that we're working on with the Half Helix team is looking very good. So I think that's going to be my favorite in a couple of months.
Yeah, we just had a demo on the approach that we use for swatches yesterday, and we're really excited about like how that's really changing the way we and your team work. So yeah, Rachel, what about you?
So I'm gonna do two that are very different. One is one of our customers who's just launched on an AI search chat innovation that Klevu's just launched. It's called Heat Transfer Warehouse. So if you want to go have a play on mobile only, you can chat with an AI in the search journey, not in the chat journey. And then in terms of like doing really cool stuff, I just really love Paul Smith's website, and I am kind of biased. I love the brand. They do content and product search really well, just like BareMinerals and Laura Mercier. And it's just a very small team running a very big global website, and it's really impressive.
Nice. Alex, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just like any website that makes my life easier and quicker. I like features like shown with, like when you see the picture of the product and it shows you the other product that they're like, if it's a fashion site and you're looking at a pair of jeans and they show you the t-shirt they're wearing as well. That's for me. I add all to cart and then I'm done my fashion shopping for the next 6 months. So Another Tomorrow is a really good example of using those kind of features. And then also just having anytime there's an ability to repeat a purchase. Like I'm someone who kind of like is a regular user of a few websites, and so I always if I'm coming back and buying products, I always want to see what I've bought in the past. I'm never going to remember it because I'm useless. So it's nice. It's those type of features are the type of things I look for in a good e-commerce site.
Yeah, I love I feel like I'm just such a consumer of like website design and functionality. I think I would have to always defer to my two OG favorite websites. First being Kate. We worked with them to launch a lot of different features and functionality throughout the years. And I just think that they know their customers so well. And it is definitely something that comes up quite often. They just present their products and their whole brand in such a unique way. And I just absolutely love the ability to be really confident in knowing like, this is who my brand is. This is how we want to present our clothes. And we know that this is the way that like our customer wants to see it. And another one was like Ula Johnson. I am such a big fan of the brand and like the whole journey. It's not because I'm biased because they were my client at Shopify, but also just because like the way that they show their inspiration and really create an environment that is really authentically that brand and really try to let their imagery really do a lot of the work. I think that that's really exciting. But some of the other brands that I really love are brands that really try to experiment on how to show garments or products for different sized bodies. I think that that's again like a huge opportunity for brands that don't do that a ton, and really helping customers that might not feel like their body is in line with the model that's being used, having a couple of different size bodies to show, and then also the size guide of being able to really easily support different body shapes and making sure styles and fits are really communicated. I think that that's just such a huge opportunity, and it's still evolving within the industry.
And skin tones too, and you guys do that quite well on BareMinerals.
Yeah, hugely important.
Well, I feel like we've taken up a lot more time than expected. Thank you both so much. Alex, as always, thank you for joining. This has been really great to hear from Carney, from you, from the inside of Orveon, and two huge brands that we all have kind of grown to admire. And Rachel, thank you so much for bringing your insight and your experience from Klevu.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.